I am the assistant admission counselor here at Illinois Tech, and we also have some current students on the call as well. We have Nick, who's a student ambassador, Stephanie and Andrew, who are both RAs, to kind of talk about their experience in the residence halls. We also have Eric here from Res, who's going to go over all the really good, important information, not as glamorous as the student stories, but still some information to know. And then on tech support, we also have Diana, who's one of our first-year counselors as well. We can go to the next slide here. So what to expect? Obviously, the bulk of the information is going to come from Eric tonight, but we're going to talk about 30 to 45 minutes tonight, depending on how long it takes to see through everything. Again, we're going to start off with residence life stories, then we're going to move on to information on contracts, the portal, and how to go about all of that official stuff. And then we'll have quite a bit of time at the end for questions. So if you guys have questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. We do ask that participants remain muted just so we don't have microphones bouncing around everywhere. So if you have questions, feel free to plug them in the chat at any time. We have some people that'll be monitoring the chat through, they can give a quick response, respond then. Otherwise, we'll get back to them at the end of the presentation. All right, so we have a couple people that are just joining the waiting room. So I'm gonna explain that all really quickly again so we don't miss out on anything before we get started. All right, so if you just joined, welcome to the Housing 101 webinar for Illinois Tech. My name is Joel, I am the assistant admission counselor. We're gonna have about 30 to 45-minute presentation followed by Q&A at the end. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Please remain muted. But we'll go ahead and pass it off for our first residence life story.
Oh, is it gonna go to the next slide? Well, I'm Ant, and I am a third-year aerospace engineering major, and I'm a current RA in McCormick Student Village, or MSV. You can see some pictures here on the side. There's double rooms shared by 2 students and a communal bathroom that generally it's male or female dominated. But like there are some floors that are co-ed, so they have one designated for male, one designated for female. There is public laundry and gym for those in the residence hall, as well as a mailbox system, as you can see it in the top picture there. And one of the things that makes MSV different than some of the other halls you're gonna hear today is the floor consists of one long hallway, kind of like a hotel, which makes it a bit easier to get to know your neighbors and floor mates. And I know a lot of people who ended up becoming really great friends with people on their floors, just because, you know, it's just very open. You leave your door open, you walk by, you can say hi to people, see what they're up to, and it's just very, you know, open. And the layout of the larger lounges, as you can see here, allows for people to hang out without really disturbing the people in their rooms that might be trying to sleep or study or whatever. And the lounges are usually used for like group studying or just hanging out, playing games. And in one of the lounges, there's a large TV, and a lot of residents like play games or watch a movie or something in there. And I know just this past fall, we did an event where we streamed the NBA finals. So we had that going on, a lot of people watching that. And then on the side, we had people playing Smash Brothers, video games, Dungeons and Dragons, all that stuff. It was just a really good time, super open and inviting space for everyone who wanted to just come, hop in, have a good time. But yeah, that's MSV.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm currently a 4th-year co-term student studying for my master's in CS. I've been working as a resident advisor on campus for the past 3 years. I'm also serving as K6 senior resident advisor. So I feel like I'm quite well known about the housing options here on campus. So I'm going to talk about Row Village. It's one of the bigger housing options I feel like we have available on campus. Consists of 3 buildings. It's RV North, Middle, and South, and each of them are 5 stories tall. For most freshmen, you're going to live in RV North or Middle. RV South is all apartment style and usually tends to be for upperclassmen. And living in Row Village, you have a bathroom that you share between you and your roommate, and then you have suite mates as well. And so the perk is that you have your own bathroom, but like the con is that, you know, you got to clean it yourself. But if you're all about that, I think RV is kind of meant for you. It's pretty spacious. It has like floor to window ceilings, which I really like because it makes the room feel a lot bigger. a lot brighter, get some good sunlight. And there's plenty of amenities like the communal kitchen, there's laundry rooms, there's a workout room, and even there's a piano on one of the floors that you could play as well. I think something really cool about Row Village is that students nickname it the toaster because of its shape and like metal like exterior, which I think is pretty cute. I lived there this past summer, and so one of the cool things I really enjoyed was that on the 5th floor, you have the outdoor terrace, and it gave an amazing view of the fireworks. You can see the sunsets, the city skyline, and one time we've even had residents blow up a pool and just chill outside. So I definitely think that Row Village is a lot of fun, and a dorm that you should definitely check out.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick. I'm a second-year student here at IIT, and I'm currently in CASIC Hall right now. So CASIC and Cunningham are kind of a copy and paste of each other. Cunningham is kind of just rotated 90 degrees. We're actually building it right now. There are newest residence halls on campus. They opened, CASIC just opened in fall of 2020, so I'm actually the first person ever to stay in this room. And that's just really nice because you get really nice new facilities. You know, nothing's worn down, everything's nice and new. I mean, what's really cool is all the rooms are kind of pinwheeling around the central lounge. So there's 2 kind of wings to each building, or there's 2 wings on each floor. And so that that lounge kind of studies both as like a study space, but it's also kind of your hallway to the elevators and to the bathroom and things like that. I mean, that really encourages you as you're walking across or through that lounge to kind of bump into people, make friends, things like that. I know that's how I've met a lot of people in CASIC Hall. What's really nice about that, I really like it, you kind of get the best of both worlds when it comes to the bathroom situation. So in at Row Village, you have to clean your own bathrooms, which I'm personally not really into, but you still get the privacy of like a private bathroom that locks with a door. So in MSV, you just kind of have the curtains that between the stalls and things like that. But in CASIC Hall, you get a lot more privacy without having to clean it, which is really nice. You also have really beautiful views of the city, so you can kind of see in that top picture and the bottom picture, you can either have a north-facing room, which gives you a really good view of the Chicago skyline, which I have, or you get a really cool view of MTCC and the IIT Tower, which is always super fun. So just a really cool building to hang out in.
Just to answer a few questions here in the chat. So someone asked, in CASIC and Cunningham, how many people per room? There tends to be 2 people per room. There are also single options, and there's also triples as well. So in the photo here that you can see, that is a triple. It says CASIC has huge windows, which are nice, but doesn't have enough walls to place whatever you need. I feel like I'm in CASIC right now, and I feel like it's okay. I have a corner room, so both of my walls are windows. But I also have 2 other walls that I hung up command strips just to hook up these lights that I have as well. So I think enough walls is pretty good. What are semi-private stalls? So one of the things about CASIC and Cunningham is that some of the floors are co-ed, some of them are all one gender. But the perk is that the bathroom doors go from like floor to ceiling. So you have that privacy in the stall and in the shower as well. And is it easy to get a single room? I think so. I guess it kind of depends on like the rate of like applications and how many people apply for it. This year, obviously due to COVID, there are not as many students, so almost all residents, at least on my floor, have single rooms. So I definitely recommend reaching out to housing for that. Anything for freshmen with a semi-private bathroom? Not with CASIC and Cunningham because the floors are communal. Are singles more expensive? Eric, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is, right?
Yeah, so the single rooms within CASIC and Cunningham are all the same cost as the double rooms based on the size. You get the same size for the same cost. Now, if all the singles do fill up and we do have the availability to buy out a double room as a single, that would be double the cost of the actual room cost. So that would be a little bit more money, but we don't usually typically buy out those singles until we get past the add drop date of the semester so that we know for sure how many people are actually going to be on campus or not.
One of the questions was which halls are co-ed? It kind of just varies on the amount of residents that we have. So right now we have 8 floors. 2 of the floors are all females, all males. I'm on the 3rd floor, and so we have the east side is all females and the west side is all males, and a lot of the floors are like that, where it's like female, male. But we also do have co-ed floors. I think we have 3 in KSIC right now. Is it twin XL? Need something for a 6'6" guy. Wow, you're tall. Yeah, I believe the beds are all twin sizes. And
Twin
which
XL.
dorm is to an XL, yes. And then which dorm is closer to Keating? Definitely Kasich and Cunningham. We are on the furthest north side, so that's closest to Keating. Do most students live on campus? I feel like we do have a fair amount of students living on campus, which is nice.
Currently, about 70% of students do live on campus.
Yes. AC, yes, each room you have your own temperature control.
Great. I think we're going to pause here on answering the questions, and I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who's going to talk about more official stuff, good stuff to know about where to go from here in order to secure a residence hall, and then we'll answer more questions at the end.
Yeah, we have plenty of time at the end to answer some more of those questions. And if we don't get to all of them today, we will be able to answer those past this time. So let me get into the actual housing application process. So thank you all for being here tonight. We're very excited for you to be on campus and welcome you to IIT. Obviously, you heard some true experiences of the residence halls on campus. We have great options available, and they're very different options and unique options for you. Today, I wanted to just first start off by just letting you know who our team is. I'm Director of Housing Operations here on campus. And these are some of the folks that you may be able to meet while you come to campus. There's also opportunity for you to apply to be an RA or work our desks while you come to campus. We currently have 43 staff RAs on campus and 73 community desk assistants. So you will see those folks as you do arrive on campus. Let's get to what you're actually wanting to know is how to actually apply and what information you need to know through the application process. So to first start, you want to go to your myroom.iit.edu. You're going to hear this a lot while you're at IIT is the MyRoom Portal. The MyRoom Portal is where all of our applications are located for both fall, spring, and summer. This is also where you'll select your meal options in the future and is where we host a lot of information for your student contract and application. So you first go here and you'll use your single sign-on username and password to sign into your account. Once you sign in, you're going to come into a portal that looks identically to this. This is the MyRoom Portal. So what you'll see in here is your information with your name and your A number. This A number is something that you'll be using a lot on campus. This is your identification number that you'll use across campus is a way for us to identify you. Now, if you are a first and second year student, you can have a waiver to your living requirement. This is available through your MyRoom Portal. You just log in. The link is right here within the system. You go to that form, fill out that form, and one of our admissions counselors will be in touch with you if you're approved or not. Right now, that radius to campus is 20 miles from campus is approval. There are special circumstances within that, so if you do feel like you do qualify for those, feel free to fill out that form. Obviously, we would love for you to stay on campus as we do believe it enriches the experience. So to start your application, you're going to go under the 2021-2022 Housing Application and Room and Board Contract. You'll select this link. You may get an error message that does come up that says you may need to submit an emergency contact. If you don't have that listed yet, you need to go to the left-hand column to the My Emergency Contacts. Once you go there, you're going to add an emergency contact. This can be a temporary one for now or someone that you know or that's close to you. If you do need to update this later, there is options, but you won't be able to start the application until you have an emergency contact in there. This information is really helpful for us so that if there is any moment in the year that we need to contact someone for your health and safety, that we have someone on file that we can get in touch with to make sure that you're okay. So once you go in there, you add your information and you select the Save Changes, you'll be able to start the application. What's really great about our application is that at any point in time prior to submitting the application, you can go in and you can leave the application, come back home, ask us any questions, and you'll be able to jump right back where you started. So as you can see, once you start the application, you'll get a message that says you've begun a contract but did not submit it. So you can go back into that contract at any point in time. Up until May 31st, you'll be able to go in and cancel your application through the MyRoom Portal. After that point in time, there are charges that do occur, so that option will not be available, and you'll need to reach out to us directly at housing@iit.edu. So I'm not going to go through each individual page visually of what that looks like, but I'll go through each step of what that looks like on the application process and highlight some of the important information you need to know as you're filling out the application. So step one in the process is the housing contract and conditions. So in that first page, there's going to be a long document. It's 2 pages with quite a bit of conditions in there. I do recommend that you take some time to thoroughly read through each of these contract terms and conditions. It's really important that you understand what you're agreeing to by submitting your housing application. As I said, you can leave the application at any point in time and return to it to get to your answers resolved through our office if you do have any concerns with any of the contract terms and conditions. Please review condition Q, which is our cancellation terms. Make sure you have those dates and times in your calendar, just in case you do decide to cancel your contract, that you don't incur any additional fees based on the time period in which you cancel. Those cancellation terms and conditions are put in place so that we know and we have a good understanding of how many people are going to be in housing. So at a certain point in time, that does get a little burdensome on us as an office. So that's why those fees do come into play. So again, if you do have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us at any point in time before continuing. And the second part of the application is just your information from your application. In here, there are 3 sections that you can add information to. If you're an ROTC student or a student athlete, please indicate so in there, as there's a few extra questions within the application that may pertain to you. Also, if you don't already have a mobile number on file within your application, please add it in there. If we do have any questions about your application, we'll be reaching out to you via this mobile number to ask any questions or get any verify any information. In step 3 is accommodations. If you do apply for, or if you do qualify under the Americans with Disabilities Act for any accommodations, you would need to fill out some information through the Center for Disability Resources. All this information is within the application, so feel free to follow those links and provide the appropriate information accordingly. Indicate so within this contract, because if we don't see documentation for your request, we'll follow up, make sure that we are in contact with the Center for Disability Resources to make sure that you get all the information that you need submitted and verified so that we can make sure you're in the right room for you to meet your accommodation. Also, if you have any gender-related support that you need while you're on campus and living within our halls, please indicate so here so that we can understand your request and make sure you're living within an environment that's safe for you. In the step 4 and 5, I'm going to go into further detail in the next couple slides. So this is kind of the information that you're probably more curious about, is roommates and who am I going to live with? What is the room type that I will want to live with or live in while I'm at IIT? So I'll go into that further detail. So it's roommate request and lifestyle questionnaire, and then the building preferences. After the building preferences within your application, you're going to come to a submit housing application section. Please read through and make sure you understand all 3 points before you sign your name and put your identification number within this section. Once you select next on this page, it will submit your application. So just be cautious. If you are not ready to submit, do not put any information and do not select next. It is a little confusing with the terminology there. Instead of submit or finalize or whatever, it says next. So just make sure that you know that. You will get an email once you press next on this selection to verify that you've submitted a complete application. So just be cautious of that as you get to that final step. To talk further about the roommate selection, if you already know what roommate you want to room with for your upcoming fall term, all you will need to know is their last name and their email address provided by IIT. Once you have that information, you go into the actual application, you select this red select button here, and that'll bring up the information to add the last name and the email of your requested roommate. It's important to note that you should both accept the roommate request if you are putting that in. Once we go through the actual selection of rooms and put students within their rooms with their roommates, if we don't see that it's been confirmed by both roommates, we can't verify that that roommate selection is agreed upon, and we will not be able to honor that request. So as you're going through, make sure you both have accepted each other as roommates, and that will show up in your application upon both of you accepting. Also, don't worry if you don't have a roommate selected right now. There will be opportunities through the admissions process to select a roommate or find someone that's in your class coming up. So if you do find a roommate later after you've submitted your contract, there will be an option for you to come back into the application and adjust your preferences. In that, you would adjust your preference, add the roommate of your choosing, and accept each other, and that will add and edit your contract and application to reflect the appropriate information. Now, should you not have a selected roommate, that is totally okay. We find that most students, especially in their first year, may not know exactly who they want to room with for their first year. So this lifestyle questionnaire within the application is really important for us as we go through the room selection process. What we're going to do is we're going to look at all students' applications and make sure that we have a good understanding of what are some of their preferences for living. These are just a few of the questions that you may see within your application that help us to determine some of those lifestyle preferences that would help match you with the right roommate or with someone who has similar preferences, so that we can determine that, you know, maybe some of these lifestyle preferences will match up and align a little bit better, causing a better roommate pairing. Now, does that work all the time? No, but that's part of being in college. It's part about living on campus. You'll come to campus and you'll fill out a roommate agreement once you come to IIT and live in our housing, to better outline some of those things that you prefer and some of the things that you both need to live successfully together within the residence halls. So it's really important that you fill this out honestly, so that when you do get paired with someone that has similar preferences, they can expect that those are truthful statements that you've put within your application. Under the building preferences, this is important for us to know what buildings you prefer to live in. Now, I will say one of the most common questions that we get once the room selection has been submitted and once we've communicated out all placement has been finalized, we have a lot of students that say, well, I preferred Row Village, or I preferred Cunningham, and I got Kasich, or I got MSV, or whatever that might be. Remember that these are just preferences that help us to align your housing to the similar housing preferences that you put within your application. Based on availability and based on how many students have already selected housing through the returning process, we may be limited on what rooms we have available within your preferred building. So what we'll do is we'll try to align your preferences to the closest available option. But that's why it's really important in this building preference to select 3 different options based on your preference within there, because that helps us if your first preference is not available to go on to your second, third preference within that application. If you do want to look at more information and you still have questions after our student experience within each hall, we do have a great comprehensive floor plan for each of the buildings, so you can understand what each hall looks like, and that's located here at this link. And I'm sure, Joel, we can get that information out to these students post this call. We're very excited for Cunningham to come online. Kasich has been a real success, and as Stephanie mentioned, it's been at half capacity this year due to single occupancy. So we're very excited to get more students in there in the fall and see what having more students in Cunningham and Kasich is going to do to that side of campus. We're very excited for that quad area. Some important dates to put on your radar. As I mentioned within the contract itself, please put these cancellation term dates within your calendar. It's really important to know what dates charges start incurring if you do cancel your contract. So you have until May 31st to cancel your contract without any penalty. Between June 1st and June 30th, there will be a $200 cancellation charge to process your cancellation. And then you can read the following in your contract to understand how those increase. June 7th is when we anticipate all contracts or all room assignments to be placed for all students who apply prior to June 1st. So if you have time to submit your application and put yourself in great position to have one of your top preferences met, I would recommend trying to apply prior to June 1st. Applying after June 1st does not mean that you are not going to get a room on campus. It just may mean that some of the other preferences will be filled up at that point in time. We will be addressing those room placements on a rolling basis after the 1st, giving us 3 to 5 business days to get you into a placement at that point in time. And then also please mark August 16th, 2021. That's our move-in day. We're really excited to get back to normal on campus and hopefully get everyone back on campus safely and smoothly. So that's what I have for important days. Really excited to welcome you to your IIT home. I'm very excited to answer any questions or comments that have come up through this. I know that this is a lot to digest, and I'm happy to help in any way. So Joel, I don't know if you want to lead the question and answer or how you want to go forward with that, but I'm happy to chime in wherever.
Yeah, for sure. I guess before we get into that again, the last thing here is save the date. We talked about if you don't have a roommate yet, that's totally fine. If you're looking to meet someone who could be your roommate, we have an admitted student Discord that's great for socializing. But we're also going to be hosting a Meet Your Roommate speed dating event. You're not dating, that's fine. But it's a great way to just get to like talk to as many people as possible, and then from there follow up with them in things like the student Discord or other communication methods to just get to know them a little bit better to see if you would want to be roommates. That's happening at the end of April on a Thursday night. In between going into all these breakout rooms, we're going to be doing a live demonstration of cancer cells and how they grow. So if you're into that, look forward to that. If you're not into socializing, you'll at least have that to look forward to. But it's a great way to get to know people. So let me see here if we've had any questions come into the chat. I know we answered most of them as they came up. I guess the first thing here is that we haven't answered yet is what is the difference between pod and suite style? Is pod 2 rooms with shared bath, or is that suite? I don't know if one of the students wants to take that on who has like lived in either or both. That can kind of give a little bit more of the nuance to the difference.
Yeah, I can take that. So suite style is when you have one room with that private bathroom that you have to clean yourself, not even custodians have access to it, kind of connecting to a second room. So it's the 4 of you are almost kind of, but we call it suite mates. And the 4 of you are kind of sharing that bathroom together. Whereas pod style, like I said, it's kind of rooms kind of pinwheeling around that big central lounge. And that lounge is a common kind of living room almost. Where you kind of walk across it, study in it, you know, things like that, just kind of bump into people, things like that.
Great. Another question we had in here was, will students have to be tested for COVID before moving in? Eric, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, as of right now, it's an evolving situation week to week, month to month. As of right now, if we were to make the decision based on the current guidelines within the city, we would say yes. You know, August is very far away in regards to COVID guidelines. So we're hoping that we're back to somewhat normalcy by that point in time. If we do need to have tests, you'll have adequate communication from our office to test and provide those tests to our university. But as of right now, there's no indication that fall will require those.
Great. And then we had a series of questions about kind of like what's allowed in dorms or not, and what's in them. For bringing standing AC or heater if you need it. I'll let one of the RAs answer that one, but for the other two, I can answer. Does any room have a sink inside of the room, just a sink? Like the suite style ones are going to have that shared bathroom. So it's not within like your room with the beds, but it's part of your unit. There's nothing that's just a standalone sink. So it's, you know, a series of sinks that are underneath the bathroom as well. Do any of them have kitchenettes? Row Village is going to have like kitchens that are kind of on some of the intermediate floors, and Kasich and Cunningham have some communal kitchen spaces as well. We do have other apartment style building or others that do have full kitchens inside of them, but for the ones for incoming students at the first year status, there's nothing that would have a kitchen within the unit itself. Do one of the RAs want to answer the specifics on AC or heater units?
Yeah, I can.
You want to take a lead?
I got it. Okay. So we're not allowed to have heaters in the room because it becomes a fire hazard. But you're more than welcome to have a fan in your room. The heat is. I've never had a problem being cold in the room because we have a heater that turns on for the winter, and AC for the summer. And then I see there's also a question about internet needs throughout campus. They're generally the same in all of the dorms. And I know MSV has 4 Ethernet ports in a room. I can't speak for the other rooms though. For the other dorms, I'm not sure.
I don't believe Kasich has one, or if we do, I haven't seen it. But the internet, I feel like I had a pretty decent time with it. My classes have been okay. I'm on the Zoom call okay, so I think it's pretty good.
Okay, and then I also see the next question after that was, okay, how ethnically diverse are the houses? So I don't believe that we track like each residence hall individually, but I'm gonna plug a link in the chat from USA Today that just talks about some of the most diverse student bodies in the US, and we are one of those top universities, which is really great. We do have students coming from out of state. We also have a lot of students coming internationally. So what makes our campus diverse is just the amount of places that students are coming from and our high international student population. But inside of like specifics for the housing, they're not going to track. At least I don't, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, it's illegal for us to place students based on their ethnicity or race.
I'm trying to see what's kind of already been seen here. There was another question about which building is pod style and is the bathroom large communal. Again, we talked to Kasich and Cunningham or that style. And yeah, it's that like semi-private bathroom. So kind of like an in-between there. Do all the different housing options include some sort of fridge, either shared or private for the room? So when it comes to mini fridges, none of them come with it as a default. But I believe we still do work with a company that will provide, it's like a mini fridge, microwave, freezer combo. Otherwise, you can bring in a mini fridge. You just have to make sure that it fits within the standards of the residence hall. Don't want to like start an electrical fire. So just got to make sure that it's within limits there.
Yeah, Loft partners are really strong partners, and they've been working with us for years. It's really convenient for you to not have to work on figuring out how to get a fridge on campus or how to move it out every year. It's really easy to just rent with them, and they'll come and deliver it before you arrive, and they'll pick it up once you leave.
Great. And then we had a question on, is the description of the housing areas on the application page? I know that we provided the link in here for more information on them. Will that information also be like referenced in the application at any point?
Yep. Yeah. When you get to the actual part to select your building preferences, you're going to have 2 links above the preference options. One's going to link you to the rates of each of our residence halls, and then one is going to link you to the Explore the residence hall page. So it'll direct you right there.
Great. And then another question on housing scholarships. And it was answered in the chat, but just to reiterate, as long as you have a housing scholarship, that'll apply to any option for living on campus. So it's not going to be restricted to different halls. And we have another question here on the communal kitchens. Maybe if one of the students who have like used both can maybe describe the difference between them.
Yeah, I can go ahead with that one. So for communal kitchens, that's usually an RV that just has like a sink, the stovetop, an oven. There's also a fridge in there as well. And a lot of residents kind of just label their food and leave that inside. But that does get clean, so you have to be very mindful of that. There's also just a countertop if you want to just be like chopping food or something like that. Within Kasich and Cunningham, the kitchen unit is just, there is a sink with hot water, boiling water that comes out, and a microwave as well. There is no stove tops or anything like that. Yeah, I think I covered everything.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. So the next question we had here was about MSV, and it said MSV is one of our older dorms. Has the rooms in that been updated, or will the newer buildings replace MSV at some point? I know that they have been doing renovations, obviously, still to MSV. So I know a few years ago they had updated the Wi-Fi and all of them and everything like that. Eric, I don't know if you want to talk more about long-term plans or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too specific on long-term plans as they're evolving every day. But MSV, we put a lot of work in some of the bathrooms within some of the wings within the building that we're going to be using for the 21-22 year. We've also recently updated some of the lounges. So the large lounges have new furniture within those lounges to create a better communal space for this there.
Great. So yeah, I mean, it is one of our older dorms, but it's probably getting the most love and care at this point. So you're definitely going to be in great shape to make sure that it's still a successful year for you and the residence halls.
And it will be offline this summer for us to do some ongoing maintenance as well. So we continue to put money into the building to make sure it's up and operational.
We had questions here about some stuff you could bring, couldn't bring. I know we shared the list of things specifically. Just a general note, because it applies to a lot of other questions I've had too. Any of the furniture that comes within the residence hall needs to stay there. So that's going to include the bed frame and the mattress, and then also some form of a desk and a chair, and a wardrobe or a chest or something like that, depending on how the closet space is arranged. You can bring anything that you want in, as long as it doesn't violate that list of things you can or can't bring in. But know that you can't take anything out. So if you're planning on bringing in a chair, now that you're already going to have a desk chair, so you'll need to make sure that you have something to do with that in your residence hall. And the same thing for mattresses too. You can, double mattress it, extra comfort, but know that you can't take the mattress that's already in there. Like, they're not going to move to storage or anything. It's going to stay in that residence hall. All right. There's a question here about, is there a student parking lot to leave your personal car? There's quite a few parking lots. Maybe if someone can plug the link that shows the map of parking lots in the chat, that'd be great. But there's some residential parking lots specifically for if you are living on campus, you can park closer to those residence halls, and there's different ones closer to different residential hall buildings. And there's also just general parking lots too. So you don't have to necessarily park in the residence hall that's associated with your residence hall. It just depends on the parking permit that you want to purchase. All right, and then we had a question here on roommates. How would you find one? What would each student here on the panel recommend? What do you do like your roommate? That's a spicy question. Again, come to our event, our roommate mixer, to see if, real-time face-to-face interaction, if there's anyone that you vibe well with. Otherwise, our student Discord, which as an admitted student, you would have received an email that invites you to that. If you don't have any of that and you're an admitted student, please reach out to our office and we can send you an invite to make sure that you're on that. That's just a place to informally socialize. We used to do like admitted student Facebook groups, but no one really uses Facebook anymore. So we switched to Discord. If you're unfamiliar with how to use the platform, don't worry, it's super easy. It's a great way to like casually chat about things. Maybe if the other students here want to chime in about kind of their experience with finding a roommate, and I don't know, did you ever have any issues with a roommate?
So I found my roommate using the student Facebook page, and it may not have been the best fit for me because we picked each other because we had the same name. So that was fun. And I ended up actually conflicting with this roommate, and our RA kind of worked it through. They helped us figure out how we can make things better, and if we can like change rooms, find someone else who may have gone abroad or something like that where there isn't a roommate, and we relocate if we can't manage to compromise. But yeah, we're willing to work with you as RAs and part of the residence life staff to try to mediate because it's a shared space.
Great. I think that covers a really good universal story. Other questions here? We have some questions about dining halls and meal plan info. That's not really the focus of this webinar. So if we have extra time at the end about that, but otherwise, if someone wants to plug in the chat, the webpage that has information on that, if they haven't already, I see that there's 11 new messages that I haven't even seen yet. So maybe it's in there, maybe it's not. As just like as general information, if you live on campus, you'll be required to have a standard meal plan that will allow you to have lunch and dinner every day pretty much. But the website will have more information on that because we don't want to dive too much into that tonight. Storage options for things like bicycles. So yeah, there's tons of bike storage options. I know Kasich specifically has a bike room, I believe. I'm getting nods, yes. Otherwise, we have tons of bike racks throughout the residence halls that are outside. I know at least outside of McCormick Student Village, it's at least covered, so your bike's not gonna get wet. But yeah, we also have lifts on, or not lifts, divvy bikes, which are run by Lyft on campus. So if you don't want to bring a bike or you don't want to worry about buying a bike before you come here, you can always get like a student pass through divvy, and then you're able to like check out a bicycle for like, there's different time frames you can check them out for. And there's stops throughout the city, so you can drop them off at another stop wherever, which is a really great thing if you're not familiar with Chicago and you are thinking about maybe getting to biking as a great alternative. Do you register in advance for speed dating? You'll register the same way you registered for this event. We publish like the webinar stuff month at a time, so it'll show up in April, hopefully, since it's happening at the end of April. Okay, we had a question here about a sous vide machine. I'm gonna go on a limb and say probably not. That's a really intensive machine for cooking. But if you have like in a style residence hall, maybe that will be allowed there, but in a normal dorm without a kitchen, I'm gonna go with no on that.
Anything with an exposed heating element is a no. So.
Hi, hey Joel, can I jump in for 1 second?
Of course.
Hi, this is Diana, and I just been seeing some questions regarding the application for housing. So I see that there are some students that have accessed their housing application and they see that the application says spring 2021 to 2022 instead of fall. I was just wanting to get some clarification on that.
The way our application pulls students in is based on their class status. Some of that information isn't being fed automatically. So if you are having experience with that, we need to manually add something onto your account. We're working on a long-term solution so that this happens automatically. Conversation gets some of that resolved. We've noticed that maybe 1 or 2 students a week are experiencing that. So if you are a student that is experiencing that, please send it to your admissions counselor. They have a direct line to me, and we usually work on those requests between 1 and 2 days to get that resolved and get you into the application.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Great. We had someone ask about showing Cunningham. That's actually opening in fall 2021. So anything we show for it's just going to be like renderings at this point. But it's the same as Kasich. Nick mentioned this earlier. So anything on like our virtual tour that shows Kasich is basically the same thing. And again, this is recording right now and we'll upload that on our YouTube channel. So you can always go back and review anything that you missed or reiterate anything you need. And then we have another, looks like the last question we have here is, can I stay 1 year at one hall or room and move to another the next year? Furthering on that, have second year options with semi-private bathroom or even 1 to 2 bedrooms to share with students. They're just looking for a better bathroom or kitchenette.
So all second year students get an opportunity to go through the room selection process. So once you're in your second year, you'll apply to housing and you'll be put into a selection group. Once you're in that selection group, you get kind of opportunity to select which housing option you want on campus. Most of our second year students will choose to either return to Kasich, Cunningham, or Row Village, as most of the Gonzales, Carmen, and Village South spaces are already full by our third year and above students. So that's kind of what I would recommend is if you're interested in that, apply early in your second year so that you have a greater opportunity for the room selection process.
Great. And then we had another question here on shipping. Can any be shipped to student? So how it works is if it's like a letter or something like that, that's going to come in your mailbox, which if you're an MSV, you have that within the residence hall. Otherwise, other mailboxes are located within McCormick Tribune Campus Center, which is just the student union on campus. And that is also where we have a post office. So if you're anything, no matter how big or small it is, any boxes that come in are going to go to the post office and they'll send you an email and you just go there and pick it up. So that's kind of how shipping works. They're not going to ship any like boxes or anything directly to your residence hall. You'll have to pick it up, but letters and stuff, if you live in a residence hall that has a mailbox in it, are going to go to your residence hall. All right, and then another question came up here with like summer housing. Can you store things somewhere if you're going, you know, if you don't live in Illinois and you need to go back home? What do you recommend people do with the things in their residence hall?
So we actually recently partnered with a storage company that will work directly with students. What you do is you'll work with a company, book your spot for pickup. They will send you boxes and shipping material to box up all of your items that you do not want to take home with you for the summer. They'll store your items for you during the summertime period, and then they'll deliver to your spring or to your fall room the next year. So we're really excited about this opportunity for students have a little bit more flexibility in the summer and not have the stress of having to figure out all their storage for themselves. So that is what we offer.
Great. When the COVID vaccines are available to everyone, will students be required to take it? As of now, I don't know if I think legally you just can't force anyone to take it. So I mean, we're going to have to play it again by ear as they come up. Currently, students in Illinois, it's not their turn yet to take the vaccine unless they have pre-existing conditions or something like that within the given age ranges, or they work in a necessary, or not necessary, what's the word I'm looking for? Essential service or something like that. I don't know, Eric, if you wanted to expand on anything with COVID vaccines and where your head's at with that.
Yeah, Joel, you mentioned it, I think perfectly. We can't require folks to, at this point in time, we don't know what the fall requirements will be, but we're hoping that it's not something that we have to track. But if we do, we'll give you plenty of notice and give you all the instruction on where to either provide a negative test or your vaccine information.
Great. How big are the gyms and what do they contain? So any of the gyms that are in the residence hall are going to be more just on like the basic side of like standard equipment, because we have a student rec center that has the main gym space in it. So in the residence halls, the gyms that are there usually have a few treadmills, a few bikes, maybe an elliptical, and maybe some free weights as well. And then just room to like stretch out and things like that. So they're more just kind of like on that smaller, quick workout side of things. But our student center has all the bells and whistles. So the top floors have courts. You can play basketball, volleyball. You can rent them out, like rent them. They're free for students if you can reserve it if there's not like a game being played. That's where all the intramurals will be. And then the bottom floor is all those other workout spaces. So they have like a studio that has mirrors in it if you were into dancing. They also have a pool and then full work facility. So that is going to include most of the weightlifting machines, standing weight racks, more treadmills, more bikes, more ellipticals, and all that good stuff. On the virtual tour, you can see like photos of what's in the Keating Sports Center if you're interested more on like what that main stuff be. But in the residence halls, again, it's just more on that kind of minimal level. And then Stephanie did a great job of answering the question about things on walls. Again, don't nail anything, but command strips have come a long way, and they should be able to hold everything that you need. And then we had another question here. Are there rooms that can be shared with 3 people? I know we have 3 people rooms in KSIC. Maybe Eric, if you want to elaborate on what's the process of if you're interested in living with 2 other people, does that make your application process any different?
It does make your application process any different, but what I would recommend is that you have 2 mates that you want to room with in that triple requested in your application. So you can see within your application there's up to 5 people that you can request. So request the 2 other individuals that you want to room with, and put the preference on either Kasich or Cunningham, as that's where our triple rooms are located. And we will know that that is something that you're looking for.
Great. We had a question here about 3-bedroom apartment in Row Village. That's currently just available to students after their first year. But Eric mentioned how once you're kind of like in your first year, it looks a little bit different in terms of how you go about that. So you'll be able to see rooms that are available, and if that one's available and you're eligible for it, you can request it then. But it's just a regular apartment building, so the rooms are going to be locked separately from the shared space. We had a question here, again, some COVID stuff. How will IIT track the COVID cases at school or quarantine students? We have a dashboard that gets updated, and then they send out reports on it every week, so you can track how many positive cases we have. Anyone who tests positive obviously has to quarantine. We have quarantine rooms set aside on the residence halls, but also hotels throughout locally near us. And if you were in contact with someone who tested positive through contact tracing, you also quarantine. So it's a pretty rigorous way to view about those things and make sure that students can be isolated and monitored if there's concerns that they may have COVID or if they do test positive. And then we have our Dean of Students that works mainly with what's going on with the COVID situation, and they work to make sure that students get meals if they're quarantined, and that they're monitoring symptoms to make sure that by the time they're able to move back in, that they're not showing symptoms and that they're feeling good. Where can we find the cost for different rooms? It should be on, Eric, I don't know if you want to talk about more about that.
Yeah, someone just shared the link, so follow that link and you should be able to find the up-to-date rates and terms.
Great. Do we need to request a room? So you can just do a random roommate assignment, which is if you don't specifically put in a roommate, they'll just match you and get you assigned a room. And that's how that'll go. Will masks be required? So yes, currently masks are required, whether that be in academic spaces, in a residential hall spaces, anything like that. In a public space, you do need to be wearing your mask. If someone, I think currently one other student can be in a room that doesn't live there, but it's advised that you're still wearing masks if that's the case. If you're needing to study in groups or something like that, the library is open, but people do need to be socially distant and wear masks as well. So we're taking the pandemic pretty seriously on our campus. So we do want to make sure that students are following the mandates that are provided by the CDC and by the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. It's kind of 3 things that are providing recommendations there. Do you need to bunk them, or some rooms must bunk? It's a preference. All rooms can be configured with them bunked or without them bunked. If you request a single, will you still be able to request a roommate later in case you don't get a single? Eric, do you want to expand on that?
Yes, yeah, so an option within the application to select that you want a single space. We will work based on those preferences and based on the availability. I'll be honest, there's about 20 singles within Kasich, 20 singles within Cunningham, and those are our only true singles on campus. So we will try to honor those the best we can. If we do not have singles available and we're going to your application, what we will probably do is either reach out and let you know that we cannot honor that request, and ask if we do have the space available, we will ask if you want to buy a double as a single at that point in time.
Awesome. And then most things have been answered in the chat here. One thing that hasn't been is, can your roommates be changed if you don't get along with them? Yeah, there is a process to go about changing roommates, but the first step that kind of happens is a mediation, which our RAs can probably share a ton about because it's kind of one of their responsibilities. Honestly, filling out a roommate agreement when you arrive on campus is the first step to make sure that a cohabitation environment is healthy. But if that's not the case, there are other ways to try to resolve issues, and if need be, roommates can be changed. That's kind of a last case scenario, which will work through resolving issues before we get to that point. Yeah, stuff was popping in the chat as I was talking. So great. Our preferences first come, first serve before the June 1st deadline. Yeah, we'll just go by, obviously getting it in June 1st is gonna give you the best opportunity to get into the residence hall that you would like to get in, but it's not a guarantee. So it just really depends on the what roommates have requested, what spaces are available, and things like that.
If I can elaborate really quick on that, Joel. For last year, we had about 200 applicants within the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of the application being open. All of those applicants had selected similar room preferences. Even though that they were early on within the application process, some of those students did not get their first preference based on the number of students that preferred the same options and based on the returning students who had already selected the same room option. So we really try our best to get you in your first or second preference. There's not many students that will get to their third preference, but it does happen. So we can't guarantee it's going to be something that can eye the June 1st deadline, but we do our best to get you into first or second.
Great. And then there's a question here, does each residence hall have its own dining hall? So the residence halls don't have dining halls in them, actually. Our main dining hall is in our student center, but then we also have satellite restaurants throughout. There's one in the Kaplan Center, there's one in the tower. So there's a few throughout as well. We also have the 7-Eleven on campus, or nearby, like a Jimmy John's and a Starbucks. There's a great local business called Redline Cafe, which has awesome pizza restaurant attached to it too. It's not deep dish pizza, which you know, I better deep dish pizza, but maybe I won't be invited back to one of these because I just said that. But yeah, and then yeah, we plugged the link in there if you're wanting to look more into that. One other thing here is how much time do you get to move in? I don't know if Eric, do you want to expand on typically what the room or the move-in windows look like?
Yeah, typically we schedule out those move-in windows based on the hour. This past year, due to safety regulations, we had about, I don't know, 20 students across all of campus every hour and a half, 2 hours. So it was a really slow move-in process to help space out families to make sure that not a lot of folks were coming back and forth. We're probably have something similar to that based on the current guidelines. That's what we're planning for at least. Most likely you'll probably get a half-hour time frame to move in. And what we will do is you will get a time sent to you that will be your move-in time. You'll come, you'll park. We'll have staff available on the 16th to move into your hall. But the time frames, again, are flexible. If you are a little late, obviously we'll make an exception for you to be able to move in a little bit later too. But yes, it's usually about an hour to a half-hour time slot for students to move in. We don't have a lot of traffic using those time frames.
Yeah, and then at the end of that, they were asking when can parents stop by to bring extra stuff needed. So obviously within that like move-in week, we're gonna hope that any like heavy lifting type of stuff that needs to be done happens within your move-in window. But students will move on to campus usually a week before classes start, so that you have time to test out and make sure that you don't need to go get anything last minute. And so if your parents want to bring stuff up throughout that week, they're more than able to. We just try to recommend that any like intensive moving of things where you're going to need to be going up and down the elevators a lot, that you just kind of restrict to your move-in time. We really want to make sure that only one family is in an elevator at a time.
And if we're sticking to the same guidelines now as we will be potentially in the fall, I would just recommend if you're planning travel, if you're working to get flights now, just make sure that you know that we may have limitations on guests and how many people will be able to be in the building if we have the same restrictions that we're in currently. So if you do have family staying in a hotel or something, we may ask that you go and grab the items there rather than them coming to the hall to bring things up to your room.
Great. And then last question here that we'll answer, just because we're a little bit over time right now. How is the on-campus, off-campus environment? And I'll open this up to students to talk about. Maybe they can give their experience of living on campus. What has it been like? What's kind of in the immediate area? Do you go downtown often?
Yeah, I can share my current experience so far. So this is my 4th year, so I've been here for a while. And it was part to it, only because this was like a whole new place. I didn't know anyone coming in. But I am familiar with Chicago, born and raised here. So going downtown, going to Target, Jewel, I go with my friends all the time. You can easily take the subway or the bus. It's not that far. There's also 7-Eleven where we can get a lot of other food and stuff like that as well. Environment-wise, in the dorms, whenever I walk around the halls, just kind of doing rounds, I love seeing the students studying in the lounges. Of course, everyone has masks. There's a limit to how many people there are. But in the years past pre-COVID, it was so nice just seeing everyone walk around, being able to say hi. And IT is fairly knit, so you get to see everyone kind of on a repetitive, like daily basis. So that's like another way to get to know people. Just like, oh, I see you around. Like just kind of say hi and things like that. And even with COVID right now, I definitely think the students are still having a lot of fun in the social lounges. You see them playing games outside. Weather's nice. A lot of them are using the tables. I look out the window and I see students playing like ultimate frisbee. When we had the snowstorm, they're all building snowmen outside. It was so cute. So I think despite like the pandemic, it's still a really nice campus to be a part of.
Great. For the sake of time, we're going to finish up here. There was one more question that came in about next year. It's going to be in person online. Obviously, right now it's too early to make a call definitely on that, but the school has announced that they are planning on, fingers crossed, hopefully being able to attend classes in person. But that is obviously provided that we meet a bunch of low tuition rates, high amount of percentage of students vaccinated, things like that. So if we have the option to do it in person, we're going to, but that's really just dependent on recommendations that we get from the federal government, state level, and municipal level. So we'll just have to play it by ear. But thank you all. That does conclude our webinar. Again, this recording is going to be posted on YouTube, so feel free to reference it later if you have any additional information. If you have a question that comes up later that wasn't answered or anything like that, you can email our office at admission@iit.edu. You can email your admission counselor specifically, or also if you want to send emails their way. But yeah, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll see you later in April to hopefully do a roommate mixer. Even if you've already found a roommate, you should still come. It's going to be a great way to meet other future classmates of yours. But we look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night, everyone.